see like the Usos, and I'm like, holy cow. You know who gave that to me? Creator of the That's dope. We were bullshitting on Facebook, and he's like, "What's your holy grail of something that you like?" He's like, "Yeah, Turbo Graphics." Oh, that's First Fire Pro. That's Splatterhouse. I like Dragon's Curse. What's that? TurboGrafx 16 was, I think it was one of the first. I think it was the first console to have battle royale mode in wrestling. It was battle royale. After that, they were out of the gate. You could play 5-man Royal Rumble. Battle royale. Yeah, it is. Different work games. Work games like Sports City I was thinking one day we might find a lot of those developers are either no longer with us or
Attention, you are now tuned in to Pass the Controller. Game on. Round table, show me your moves. Now these moves get good and get in the groove. Gears of war like Sonic hopping the tuck. You don't want the smoke, you'll get bodied by big knucks. Come for the character, stay for the content. Stand from the elite to the civic binding. Conventions are stream, the topics deceased. So tune in, peace and hair grease. Let's go, baby. Peace and hair grease. Pass that, pass that, pass that, pass the controller. Pass that, pass that, pass that, pass the controller. Pass that, pass that, pass that, pass the controller. Pass that, pass that, pass that, pass the controller.
What's up, PTC Nation? Welcome back to another fun-filled episode. This is Pass the Controller. You already know who I am. I'm McNux, man. I'm your host for tonight, along with a great panel that we have right here. Let me tell you something. This is going to be the most hype episode because we got our friend of the show back, man, Mr. Patrick Hickey Jr. I'm talking about journalist, man, comic book artist, author, but more importantly, voice actor, man. And we're going to talk about more of the voice acting side for Patrick. But before we talk to Patrick, of course, we got to introduce everybody else, man. To my left, man. What's up, Civic? How you been, man?
Oh, doing all right, man. Just hot off the heels of Natsukashi Con last weekend. It was a lot of fun. We hung out there with the good people in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It was a good crowd, good times. And I understand you were doing your thing there in Philadelphia, Plymouth meeting. I guess I'm gonna mispronounce the name.
Japanese.
Shakira Khan.
Shikari Khan, yeah.
If I say it wrong, I think I'm talking about Shakira.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, shout out to the people at Shikari Khan for having PTC as well, too. So yeah, me and Luna and also Sherman from Origin to Play held it down, and we had a lot of fun too, man. So big ups to you. We can't wait to do it again next year for sure. And of course, right below me is the man himself, man, with the shades on, man, right next to the Rock. I don't know how he did that, but Smoke, what's up, man?
I mean, come on now. You really going to ask? You really got to ask. I mean, come on. My history in wrestling is alone, and you mean to tell me you've never seen the legends together in one place at one time? The Smoke, the Rock, together making history in New York City back for the Black Adam premiere. Man, I'm just been doing it up, getting ready for RetroCon, hosting some of the major players that are going to be there, as well as yours truly hosting some major events there as well and stuff. And letting everyone know that PTC is going to be in the house at RetroCon besides yours truly, The Smoke, and Civic Minded. And a whole lot of other surprises are going to be there for RetroCon.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. RetroCon is going to be lit. So if you don't have your tickets now, RetroCon, you better get them. Like, seriously.
Less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks. God, that's quick.
September 9th and 10th, right?
September 9th and 10th. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
And now, last but not least, man, returning, friend of the show, our the man of the hour himself, man, with the most hype. We're going to talk about it more, the hype game that's coming out. Actually, that's out right now, really. If you haven't got this game yet, I don't know what you're doing, man. But let's give a warm welcome to, of course, friend of the show, Mr. Patrick Hickey Jr. What up, Pat? What's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Super
going
happy
on,
to
brother?
be on the show again. Love you guys. Yeah, man.
Likewise. Yeah. Thanks for making the time for us, man.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
Seriously. So Pat, man, you are involved with probably one of the biggest, most hype indie games right now this year. First of all, I want you to go ham on telling us about it, man. Pat, you got the floor. Please tell us about this this glorious game out, man.
Yeah, man. So WrestleQuest is a RPG it's a WrestleFied Japanese RPG. That's what I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
That absolutely mirrors the classic RPG experiences of the 16-bit and Sony PlayStation era. Got over 20 licensed pro wrestlers. It's got over 40 hours of gameplay. I mean, if you love games like Paper Mario, Dragon Warrior, Earthbound, Pokemon, and you mix that in with really sexy pixel art, really great writing, and a killer score of over 70 tracks. I mean, it's everything that an old school RPG fan could ever want, and it's a great introduction to RPGs. And it's something that should have been created a long time ago, but we're super happy at MegaCat Studios and Skybound that it hasn't been, because we are the first and only. So, yeah, man.
First
awesome.
of all, yeah, that is amazing. Like, seriously. And like I said, real quick before we get into the game, because me and, of course, our other host, Luna Chibi Fox, actually came to PAX East, the recent PAX East. First, one thing I got to say is that your booth, the booth was probably one of the most flashiest booths in PAX East. That's one, because y'all had that ring. And I wish, Civic and Smoke, I wish I was there. They had an actual ring there too, man, which was, you could actually do promos on that ring. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah,
man, that would have fun.
We had 2 days of cards. I mean, we had 6 hours of wrestling, something like that.
Dude,
you know, there.
it was insane.
We had Cal Hero. We had so many like good indie guys wrestling there. You know, so it was wild. And then the thing is, I mean, there was easily like 500 people around the booth, and it's so funny because another podcast, I won't say what podcast, but they were like, I saw them walking around, and you know, I messaged them on Instagram. I'm like, oh, you guys are here? They're like, yeah, where are you? I'm like, I'm at the WrestleQuest booth, and they're like, where is that? And I'm just like, I didn't even answer them, because I'm like, if you don't see the 500 people all around here, like we had and I'm not saying this because I'm on the team, but we had one of the big booths that year. So just like, so you walked around all of PAX East and you didn't see that. So I ain't telling you where we're at then.
That's the funny thing, Pat.
So,
that's the funny thing, because it was like day one. I went to PAX all the days, right? Day one, I walked past. I was like, that's a sick booth, dude. Like, yo, that is insane. But the line was so long. I was like, okay, I'll check back in at another time. Any point during the convention, I was like, this line doesn't die. This line doesn't die down. I'm like, all right. I told Luna, I was like, eventually, I want to get into the line. I don't care how long we got to wait. Usually Sundays is the time that me and Luna would go to.
I would have got you in, man.
I know, Pat, but listen, man, I don't want to play favoritism with people. Nah, man, it's like,
that's what you're supposed to use it for. So, like, I'll tell you like a quick. So like, one of my good buddies in gaming is Pete Paquette. He's the former lead animator from BioShock Infinite. He wrote him and his brother both have written forward to my Minds Behind the Games books. Awesome guys. He comes up to me with this kid. The line is like out the door, and he's like,
right.
Me and my son really want to play the game. I walk right over to the lady. I'm like, yo, listen, this is the former lead animator of BioShock Infinite. He wants to play the game. He's next.
So you're going to make him
play.
Like, yeah.
They were like, okay, no problem. So if you would have came over to me, I'm like, yo, let's get this guy in there. I would have
Yeah.
done
Like,
it for you.
it's McNuts from Pass the Control. You gotta get him in.
No,
It would have happened.
yeah, but you know what though, Pat? Like I said, eventually we got in, man, and I could not get my hands off the sticks, man. Seriously, it was so much fun. I had a lot of fun playing that. Matter of fact, again, that was no cap, but out of all the games, out of all the indie games, that was in PAX 2. And usually my job, me and Luna's job, when we're ever in PAX as a team for PTC, we have to, for us, we like to go and, cover like Indie Alley. That's what we call it, So all the indie developers and all that too, get to know them. But I said to myself, I was like, I got to see WrestleQuest. And again, I just could not get my hands off it. Luna had to pry me off of the game because it was so much fun, man. Like, seriously.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Oh, my God. And of course, day one, me, I had to grab it too, man. So it's in my library. I love it, dude, for real. Like, y'all did a great job, man. and again, shout out to the other podcast, man. But y'all deserve that award, though. Seriously, y'all definitely deserve that
Thank
award. So
it means a lot, and especially like it's the second year that we did PAX East. So like 2 years ago when we did PAX East, we had this tiny little booth, and we had won like best indie game at PAX East from like 5 websites, and we had this tiny little booth, and we were sharing it with World Championship Boxing Manager 2, which I also did lead voice acting on. So
Right.
it was crazy. And then the next year, World Championship Boxing Manager 2 is out, and then we have this massive booth from Skybound. It was just like everything just came full circle. So thank you for being there. It was a pleasure to see you then. So
absolutely.
it was
Look,
awesome.
real quick, because I know Civil want to say something, but real quick, because I think 2 years ago when you was there, right? I know, I remember I hit you up and I was like, dude, you on G4, man. Like, you was talking with, oh my God, the Completionist, right? And that's what a better person to talk to, because Completionist is like a retro mind individual, man. Like he's an indie developer himself too. But you having an interview with a Completionist, man, I was like, dude, that's the dude, right? I know that guy, man. Like, and man, you went ham as far as your acting. I was like, dude.
Between last year with the Completionist, and then I was just on Chris Van Vliet's.
Right.
He just interviewed me for like I was in Muchacho. I was in the the thing.
The
but
VTuber, yeah.
That's me. It's me. So you guys know. A lot of people were like, "What was that?" I'm like, "That was me." Like So it's been fun. It's been crazy.
Did they when you did that podcast? Did they set that up, or like the whole VTuber, or was that your model? Was that your rig?
No.
They set that up, really.
The guys from MegaCat are so cool, man. Like they sent me a super high performing gaming PC.
Yeah.
They set the rig up for me. They parsec my computer,
right,
and set the whole thing up, and they're just like, all right, now talk. And then like they make sure that it runs every time before I stream. There's somebody from MegaCat like 20 minutes before I stream, making sure all of my settings are optimized and stuff. Like these guys do not play.
You're right.
Like it's been so much fun to be a part of. Like I've been on I've done trailers for probably like 20 indie games, and I've done lead voiceover on like 5 or 6, and I've done smaller roles on like maybe 8 or 9, but like it's always been like me getting thrown out to the wolves, so to speak, and like with these guys, they're just like, yo, we're going to war, and we got your back. And it's just like, it's almost like 300. Everyone's got a shield and a spear, and like everyone helps each other out, and it's so different to be on such a good team with so much support. So I can't say enough about those guys.
Oh, dude, Pat, that's awesome, man. Like seriously, when I saw that, and I saw the clip that you posted on, and for those that like are wondering too, make sure you follow Pat on Instagram. He also has a broadcasting channel, like a private channel for his followers as well too.
I post a lot though. I apologize.
He posts a lot. You post a lot. My phone be blowing off. I mean, at work, like, Pat, come on. But nah, man, you post a lot, man. But a lot of the content that he posts, man, is so awesome. Like seriously, definitely go and follow his broadcasting channel on Instagram for sure to get updates, especially on what he's doing and the games and all that too that he's involved with. For sure. But when I saw the last video that you did, man, when they rigged the Muchacho Man, and I was like, wait, is Pat into streaming as well too? Like he's going to use Muchacho Man as a VTuber model? No, I was going to say.
I'm so mad we didn't do that tonight. I really wish.
I wish. That was awesome, man. Oh my God. But GG, Pat. Seriously, man. Oh my God. I can't express that enough.
It's crazy, man. It's hard. The thing is too, they came to me like maybe like a month ago, and they were like a month and a half ago, and they're like, you know what a VTuber is? I'm like, no. And then they just sent me a whole bunch of links, and they're like, is this something that you think you could do? And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm the type of person where like I want to be, like, to make a hockey reference, like I want to be on the ice when it's like tied when we're down a goal, when we're up a goal, protecting a lead. Like I want to be like whatever role I have to play. If I have to go out and fist fight somebody, if I have to go out and score a goal, like whatever I have to do. Like a wrestling term, if you need me to go out first match, if you need me to go out in the middle of the match, the middle of the night, if you need me to main event, like whatever you need me to do, I'll make sure that I can do. So they're
Hey,
like
jobbers are important. Jobbers are important.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Um,
Bret Hart went from putting over Tom McGee to being WWE champion, you know? So it's like, but I looked up all that VTuber stuff and went to work.
Pat, I'm telling you right now, welcome to the VTubing world, man. Because like I said, usually a lot of people know me. Like I stream myself, but when I feel like going VTube, people know me as a red cat, man. That's my VTubing model, man. I'm a red cat.
It's
you know what
crazy.
I mean? So,
it's crazy.
Yeah, they see an actual red cat on the screen, man, and like in my voice, and it's like, hey, Nux, you're a red cat? Like, yeah, I am. That's my VTubing model, man. So welcome to the VTubing world,
funny.
man.
It's insane. Like I didn't even know any of that stuff existed.
It does,
and then all of a sudden, yeah, man.
Well, two things I know about Pat. Number one, he's probably the hardest working person I know in this industry.
Thank you.
You wear. I mean, there's such a thing as a Renaissance man, and there are people like you, and you're like almost like a David Hayter type. Like you wear so many various hats. It's crazy. Like you're the kind of person, like if you weren't so humble, people would hate you because you're very good at like a lot of different things that aren't necessarily always interconnected. Because it's one thing to be able to write for books. It's another thing to be able to write for comics. It's another thing to be able to write for magazines. It's another thing to be able to do voice work. It's another thing to be a college professor. It's another thing. You marry all these things together so well, and it really is indicative of the type of person that has a true love for this industry and for gaming and gamers in general. So, you've done through the work of your books, Minds Behind series, which is like I've said before, it is easily one of my favorite book series in video gaming.
Thank you.
It's not just a freaking pop-up picture book. I like those kinds of books too, the lighter kind of coffee table stuff. But
yeah, man.
Your work to preserve a lot of these stories, which would otherwise go completely lost to the annals of time, they would just be gone. You're doing a job to preserve a lot of that. Same thing with your work with Old School Gamer magazine.
Thank you, man.
Hint, hint,
Welcome
jab,
to the team, by the way.
Yes, I'm gonna be helping out, which is very cool, and I appreciate that opportunity too.
Yeah, man.
With regard to how all of that blends into WrestleQuest for me, you can tell that when you're playing it, it was created by somebody who has a lot of reverence for wrestling in general, but also understands some of the comedic undertones and some of the historical nods. And it's not, it's so deep. I know it's like supposed to be kind of like a lighthearted game, but I love like the whole character's existential crisis about how like he's so bought into it. Like people trying to say, "Hey, it's scripted." He's like, "What do you mean? It's and feel free to do the voice better than I can because I don't do it justice. But yeah, his character is basically modeled after Macho Man Randy Savage, and it's just so endearing because nobody dislikes Macho Man. He's one of those guys like no matter how old, like everybody used to love Hulk Hogan, now everybody hates Hulk Hogan. Everybody used to love, like different characters in wrestling. Some of them they just catch so much heat over time. Macho Man's one of those perennial characters where people loved him whether he was a heel or a face. People loved him when he was alive. They love him now. His memory lives on. So it's so great that was the character that got made into the main character. It's very, very cool. Can you talk a little bit about like, how you, develop that character, how you research that at all? Or is it just a matter of just being a wrestling fan?
Well, I mean, I'm 40. I just turned 40. So I've been a Macho Man fan for 37 years, since I started watching wrestling, since I started sitting on my grandfather's lap watching World Championship wrestling on TBS on Saturday at 6:00 at night, and him telling me that, a real man looked like Ric Flair, and I was kind of like, but that guy that's like beating Ric Flair's ass right now, that's like kind of what I would rather look like, and it was Butch Reed, and my my grandfather's like, nah, you want to look like Ric Flair, and I'm like, yeah, but Butch Reed, like that dude's like, that guy's badass, he's like, no, it's Ric Flair, but I've always loved Macho Man. I love the fact that like Macho Man was one of those guys you always wanted to see him with the world title, but he didn't need the world title because he was a guy that he could put somebody over and still look great, and no one does that elbow like him, and then anyone else that tries to do that elbow, it's not a finish. When he does it, it's a finish. It's funny because my favorite wrestler of all time is Diamond Dallas Page, and
DDP.
the
Yep.
the feud that Macho Man had with DDP was just so well done. It just solidified, because like for me, like I loved DDP before that feud, and then when that feud happened, that's like what kind of like elevated him even higher. And the fact that I was able to see two of my favorite guys work for, I mean, that feud was long. That was like a 16-month feud where they went at it. So that was so much fun. But yeah, I've interviewed tons of pro wrestlers. I've interviewed Dolph Ziggler, I've interviewed Paul Heyman, Rey Mysterio, Chavo Guerrero, Jake Hager, Diamond Dallas Page. I mean, I've interviewed tons of. I've done ring announcing for. So the funniest part is some of the first VO that you hear in WrestleQuest is the ring announcer announcing Randy Savage into the ring.
Right.
That's me. And what happened was I was playing through. I had just done ring announcing for Battle Club Pro in New Jersey. It's one of my close friends owns that promotion. Joe Kim Morales, and I was playing like a super early build of WrestleQuest, and I was basically at the point where like I'm pretty sure I was voicing some of the NPCs and Muchacho Man. That's what I was doing at that time, just that. And then I'm playing through like this build, and I'm like, it would be really good if we had a ring announcer to announce Macho Man in. And I had just recorded something on my Mac, like I had just spoken right into it. And the audio guy was like, if you could hook up your mic and do that again, we'll see how it works. And I went and I grabbed this mic right here that I'm on right now, and recorded it. The next matchup is set for one fall, and from
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio, and that's one of the first like real things that I did in terms of voiceover for WrestleQuest,
Wow.
like 3 years ago, and it's the first thing that you hear in the game. So yeah, so to answer your question, I'm sorry I'm long-winded. Love Macho Man,
Mm-hmm.
love pro wrestling, love writing about wrestling. I've written about wrestling as a journalist for like 17 years. I've interviewed a ton of wrestlers. I've interviewed the creators of some of the most important wrestling games of all time, from No Mercy to WCW versus the World to Warzone to WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. So like Mark Turmel, like I've interviewed like tons and
Yeah.
tons of like wrestling guys. So that's the thing too. So when they wanted me to come into this project, I bring all of that with me. So I'm
Right.
not just like a normal voice actor. So when we go to PAX and we do a panel on the history of pro wrestling video games, and you see the voiceover guy is also a video game historian, it just adds like a level of credibility and legitimacy to the project. So I'm super happy again that the people at MegaCat understand like what I could bring to a project, and like kind of like just like let me go. Like
Yeah.
they're great that way.
Speaking of, since you're a comic book guy and on the
Mm-hmm.
subject of DDP, please tell
Mm-hmm.
me you saw Guardians of Justice.
No, I have not.
You have not seen Guardians of Justice.
Wow.
No,
You,
no.
it's
Gotta see that.
You know they're gonna grill you right now, Pat.
He's
It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Okay, I
it's
don't
on
have Netflix.
Netflix.
I gotta get it
Diamond
then.
Dallas
Okay.
Page plays the main
Oh my
character.
God,
He's
yeah.
in it. It's
Nice.
amazing. It blends everything: video games, wrestling, comic books. It's a limited series. How many episodes, Smoke? Like
I think
they're
it's
only
10
like
episodes.
they're like 20
episodes.
20-minute episodes. They fly by, but it's
Wow.
such a cool story. And
He's
it's
a good actor.
he is.
Because I saw
Yeah, he is.
Driftwood with him like 10 years
Yeah.
ago. He was in this like Western called Driftwood that was really good. So yeah, no, I'm gonna
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely
Nice.
worth watching. It's really good. Guardians of Justice. Check it out if you get a chance.
Guardians of Justice.
But let me
Okay,
ask you this
good.
though, Pat, man. What makes this game, like, in your opinion, what makes this game pop though, man? Like, as far as when you talk about like this new generation, man, not a lot, new generation is not so much keen on the retro aspect, man, the pixelated, the 8-bit fashion. What makes this game pop out now that it's been so popular, right? And in your opinion, like how does this game match up with a lot of games that's pretty much out right now for in the indie world, man?
I think it doesn't really try to match up. That's
Mhm.
what I think is the cool part. I think it's very aware of the audience that it has. It has all of the elements of an RPG that like it has. This is what I think of WrestleQuest. Somebody asked me this a couple of months ago, and they were like, "How do you want WrestleQuest to be remembered?" And I'm like, "The sum of its parts." Because the thing is, it's like if you add in Mitch's music in this game is so underrated.
Mhm.
The writing on this game by Zach Manco is so good.
Right.
And then it's just like I think I did a pretty good job on like the voices that I did. I lent a lot of voices to this game, and then like again, you got the double team mechanics, you've got the triple team mechanics, you've got the pinning mechanic in the game. There's like this. The gameplay is really solid. The animations are great. So it's just like when you add up all of those things, if you're like one of us, if you're like 35 to like 50 and you grew up on all of these games like this, you're just like, oh my god, I missed this. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted it on the Switch, because I wanted to be able to take it with me to work and and just play it like 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there, the way that I used to play RPGs back in the day. And I feel like a lot of gamers today, the younger ones, don't necessarily play like that. Everything has to be online and stuff, and it's just like I used to like to play RPGs to get away from everybody else.
Facts.
To just enjoy myself, to just be taken away to like a really cool land. And that's the thing too, the overworld, underworld, outer world of WrestleQuest is so lush, it's so big, it's so much fun. So it's just like I feel like the reason why the game is resonating with so many different people is because it hits on so many different levels. It's like whenever a character levels up in WrestleQuest, I smile. Like when you see the toy box kind of thing, it makes me smile. Whenever you pin somebody and the referee slides out of the ring, I laugh. Like I'm just like, oh my god, So it's got so much allure and attention to detail and like just passion. So that's the reason why I think a lot of people are digging it. So
you know what I like about this as well too, Pat, man, because the aspect of turn-based RPG is I don't want to say it's going extinct, because not a lot of RPGs nowadays, man, are implementing turn-based style. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like Final Fantasy isn't even turn-based.
It's not turn-based no more, right? Like the new Final Fantasy. Exactly. I was just about to bring that up. The new Final Fantasy's not, being turn-based. Everything's like more, for lack of a better term, like freeform, attack and all.
I love
like,
this scene, by the way. Toy Box Jimmy, freaking Toy Box Jimmy over here. Civic. Oh, I'm over here, Toy Box Jimmy. I love that character. He's like one of my favorites.
It's awesome, man. So to bring the aspect of turn-based strategy or turn-based RPG back into like the world, of gaming, you know what I'm saying? And to get, especially like a lot of these new gamers, man, to understand, this is turn-based, you know what I mean? You got to wait your turn. You got to strategize a little bit. It's not just hack and slash like a lot of RPGs are now, you know what I mean? It's just strategize, work it, because again, I'm a huge fan of turn-based RPGs more than any other form of RPG.
Same here. Yeah, man.
And so it's like, you got to like pinpoint. I got to block. I got to defend. I got to use heal. I got to blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? It keeps you on your toes. And I'm glad that, like I said, I'm glad that this game has that. You know what I'm saying? This is perfect. Like in and out, man, for sure. So
I think Smoke can attest to this too, is that, not only is this like a really good RPG, but I think it captures a lot of things that a lot of wrestling games really don't. Like it talks about, it addresses like how like an up and comer gains his gimmick, and it talks about heel turns, and it talks about scripting decisions and your role in a company to be a jobber sometimes and put people over and serve a greater good. And these are things that, like, if you're like one of those kayfabe guys out there and you follow wrestling, you're really serious about like, studying it and understanding some of the things that go on behind the scenes. If you're a student of that game, and I'm much more so than I am, Smoke is a former wrestler. Dude used to wrestle professionally, but I'm sure if you'll be ticking the boxes like, wow, yeah, I can totally relate to this. This is incorporated. Smoke, what tell us about, like, when you play wrestling game, what was the last wrestling game you played? Other than this, like, what kind of wrestling games did you used to play, and how did they affect you, and what did you like about them?
A lot of the games that you just mentioned, like you said, No Mercy. I played the like I I had the Sega system where I had to mod it to get the Japanese pro wrestling game. What was it? God, I forgot what it was called. Basically, Fire Pro Wrestling, and I would create my own character on there, and the company I worked for, I would create the guys who I've worked with in the company and everything else. And those games, basically, when you're seeing this kind of game, it brings you back to that era. Like I said, I played No Mercy. The current WWE game that just came out, I've been playing on my PS5. Like, I haven't played it in a while, but create a character. But I do like the idea and the aspect of being able to, like, as far as like someone like myself who paid their dues and putting people over and all, when I was being put over as first world champion. I had to pay my dues, and every guy was chopping me in the freaking ring for a doggone what do you call it for I still laugh because it was one of the shows we had to do, and we were doing a 10-man battle royale, and in order to, whoever's going to get put over, they had to pay the price by getting baptized in the ring. For those who don't know, baptized in the ring, you're getting chopped. You're getting chopped here.
You're right.
The beauty about it is, after you get put over, I didn't complain. I didn't cry. I just took my lickings, and I remember Bob Backlund. He was one of my heroes.
Another guy I've interviewed.
Yeah. Bob Backlund comes over to me and shakes my hand, and he was like, you did it right. You did a good job. And I was told right then in the locker room, he normally doesn't compliment anyone, especially, new greenhorns and all. So, and I paid my dues, like studying under New Jack and everything else, and getting opportunities, even working with Dangerous Women in Wrestling and all. They loved my performance and how I carried myself in the ring and all that. And again, I love the fact that you can elevate yourself within the game, and and they take you through the journey. They take you through the journey as a wrestler. And so for me, I love games like that. I love it where you can, you're that underdog, that you're the greenhorn, you're just coming in and all, you're paying your dues. Back in the day, you couldn't talk about wrestling like you do now. But back in the like 80s, 90s, you couldn't talk. Kayfabe was like a code between wrestlers. Now it's like, it's a commonplace, but kayfabe, it was like, you're doing something in the ring, yo, kayfabe, yo, take it home. So, and I got a chance to work with some of the biggest names, DDP being one of them. I worked with in NWA Shockwave, who was the sister company to what's it called, not WCW, doggone it, man, my mind is blanking.
I feel you.
Was that
ECW?
No, not ECW.
TNA.
TNA. This is a sister company to TNA, and I got a chance to work with a lot, because we're working with some of the big names. Rhino. I'm working with all these cats, and I mean there's a photographer that has the history of all the people. I think the main people who I got a chance, the opportunity to team up with, Jazz and Rodney Mack, and being known as Black Rain, and that was a whole thing. We were like the next evolution to Nation of Domination, and that was a lot of fun. working with those guys, and then working under New Jack, who bought me into business, who I used to buy. So again, and him giving me a major start, a major push at the ECW reunion show, over 5,000 people, and we opened up the show. And so, and having down the road, having a match with him, a 45-minute match, no holds bar and all that stuff. So again, I love games like that. Wrestling to me will never be the same as it was back in the Attitude Era, but before the Attitude Era, the Hulk Hogan era, all those eras, man, it was a mystique to it. There was a mystique to wrestling. But the day that Vince McMahon Jr. walked on the set of WCW Live changed the format of wrestling from that point on. And again,
for better or worse.
For better or for worse. And I'm just saying, as from my perspective as a pro wrestler at that time, it changed it changed a lot. And and again, I love the fact that you got AEW now. You have all these other upcoming like wrestling, and the independent circuit. To me, the independent circuit is the reason why you have a lot of great wrestlers now, because the independent circuit is where everyone pays their dues and all that, where everyone, is up and coming. This is where it lies. The independent circuit is the place, to me, I've always enjoyed it more than because people ask me, would you ever want to go to the WWF? I had the opportunity to go to WCW, Kevin Nash. That's a long story, but I had the opportunity. This is during the time when they were doing the whole thing with, the Monday Night Wars and stuff, and I had a lot of fun. So playing games like that, it makes me laugh because I'm like, I was doing this and working with the people like you talked about, Pat. Talking with DDP, and like I said, DDP, he's definitely up there with me. He's one of the very classy guy. Really like him a lot. Every time he's "What's up, brother?" and all this stuff. And so, and getting a chance to work with a lot of these cats, grew up on Iron Sheik, who always used to call me Rock. Every time he said, Rocky, what are you doing? You're jabroni. And I'm like, well, Sheik, I'm smoking. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you say. And all this stuff. And like I said again, I miss the era because again, even though wrestling is always going to be with us no matter what, to me, it was the mystique of wrestling. I loved the mystery behind it, where you didn't know too many things. To us, as kids growing up watching wrestling, we all thought it was real. Don't care who you are, you know. I'm a big proprietor in that. I love the mystique of wrestling.
You brought up Iron Sheik, and that reminded me of some of the recent unfortunate things in wrestling. We lost Iron Sheik recently.
Mhm.
After that, of course, during the course of this past week was Terry Funk, absolute legend. I had the chance to see him wrestle live one time, and it was, I mean, just words can't describe. And then also, even more recently, and probably less expected, was the passing of Bray Wyatt, who is, of course, Mike Rotundo's son. And I think he was 36 years old, died of a heart attack, I think was the most recent.
Yeah.
It's so sad. And it just, even though there's no direct correlation sometimes between every death and these wrestlers, with regard to whether they wrestled or not, it's a very punishing lifestyle. And people say, is wrestling real or is it fake? Like, what do you mean? Like, yes, it's absolutely real. What you're seeing is not fake. It's probably 80% scripted, but there's nothing fake about it. It's a lifestyle of sheer torture. And if you ever watch
DDP gave me like the best thing. He was just like, you can't fake gravity.
Facts.
And I mean, if any of you guys have ever taken a flat back bump, like my master's thesis was on how you go from watching wrestling to becoming a wrestler, and I took some flat back bumps for a couple of weeks with Johnny Rods, and nope. I got a staph infection on my face because the ring was filthy, and I didn't get it checked, and I had to go and get like anthrax medication to clear up my face. Yeah, man, it's like these guys, every time they go in the ring, it could be the last time that they go in the ring. It's like indie shows. You have kids sometimes setting up the ring. Maybe a little piece of plywood is sticking out from under the apron. It's like it could be a whole bunch of different things. Every time these guys go out there, it could be the last time they go out there. It's hard.
And that's why you have to work hand in hand with the person you're in the ring with. You have to trust the person.
Yep.
It's people say it's scripted. Well, it's about safety. It's not about just being scripted. It's about safety. We're performing in the ring for the audience, and the more hype, and from someone's perspective, from my perspective as someone who's been in the ring and had the crowd, it's an adrenaline rush. You start getting on that hype, and you start hearing them, whether they're yaying you or booing you, you get hype, and you're on an adrenaline high. And so you got to keep it in perspective. You're playing psychology to the crowd. At the same token, you got to make sure the person you're in the ring with, you're not missing a step. And if you are, you got to cover it. If someone is telling you to take it home, that means take it home. There's so many moving parts in a wrestling match. And so when people say, is it real? I'm like, you damn right it's real. I'm like,
well, it's like anything else. I mean, we talk about like movie making and things like that. I'm like, look, I mean, to be a wrestler is basically like being a live action stuntman / actor, and you don't get a second take.
With a script. With a script.
Yeah, you don't get a second take. Like, it's the same as when you see stuff like, Arnold Schwarzenegger beating the hell out of somebody on set, except there's very little contact. Your job is to make it look as real as possible. But recently I was watching an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. It's a great documentary series, and it talks about some of the, lesser glamorous aspects of pro wrestling. And one of the things that was said, and I'll never forget this quote, he said, I forget who said, I think it was Mick Foley, but his quote was something to the effect of, when you become a pro wrestler, your number one job is to protect your opponent.
Yep. Yeah.
He's like, you not to hurt your opponent. They are your responsibility, because that door swings both ways. Yeah. And it can swing both ways very quickly if you do something stupid or negligent, or, if there's a miscommunication. So he's like, they talked about that incident between Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon, dropping him through the glass a couple of times, and how, they went for it with each other's consent, even though it was not really scripted to the degree that they took it. And luckily it was, they were okay mostly. But I mean, in moments like that, it's like your life is in somebody's hands. It really is. There's nothing
true.
fake about that.
That's true.
The crazy part is like a lot of this is discussed in WrestleQuest.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
Brink Logan's story in the beginning where it's like he can't even get a push from his own dad. I
Right.
mean, like
And
that stuff.
that is the Hart family dungeon, right? That is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because if you know your wrestling history, WrestleQuest is going to be great if you know nothing about wrestling, but it's also going to be that much better if you have a little bit of knowledge about wrestling.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
it's just it's like, you know, if you really know a lot about wrestling, you're going to love that game.
Absolutely.
There's so much going on. But yes,
It's just funny to me because it's like in the showcase modes of like the 2K games, they're just like kind of rehashing great stories that have already been told. But I have never played a story mode in an actual wrestling game, sans like the Fire Pro Wrestling X special where like, you know, the character commits suicide at the end. That was beautifully written. That's a Suda 51 story. That's amazing. But like away from that, I wish that some of the story in WrestleQuest would find its way like in a wrestling simulation. It's that good.
Yeah.
So
You're giving someone an idea out there. You know, somebody's writing that down.
Facts.
Hey, I never thought about it like that. You know, because it and you got a good point. It's, you know, WWF tried to touch on that a little bit. Some of the WWE games, they tried to touch on that with the career for a wrestler and all that. But like you said, a more in depth where you give them choices. You give them a
yeah, they never do that. It's so like, you know, go this way, go that way.
Yeah, yeah. And who are they mimicking? They're mimicking someone we know in the business. You know, it's a lot of it's. I mean, but if you get the right people like yourself that, you know, can sit down and really put out a really true an original wrestling game, and again, it can be done. It's just you have to get the right. Like you said, you have to get the right team. You have to get the right. You know, you want to have an actual pro wrestler.
And that team exists, and that game was just released last week.
Yeah.
Tell us about how many voices did you provide for this game again?
Anywhere from 75 to 90.
Sheesh.
Wow.
Sheesh.
So yeah.
How long are the recording sessions?
It depends. But I mean, it's 3 years worth of recording. You know, so it could just be, it could be one day. Oh, Pat, do this list of characters, and the next day do this list of characters, and then there's whole other sections where it's just like, I mean, they used me like to my fullest capabilities. You know, it was just like, oh, write something up on you know, this guy, and then read it in like your announcer voice and blah, blah, blah. So it's just like so many different, like a lot of the stuff like that you see at like the Macho Man statues and things like that, and the things that are said about some of the characters over the course of the game. Like I played a role in like editing and cleaning up some of that stuff, and then like so it was great. In the beginning it was just like, you could do a good Macho Man, right? And I'm like, yeah. And then it was just like, all right, then do the NPCs. Then it's like, oh well, do you want to do Coco Beware? And I'm like, sure. And it's like, do you want to do Junkyard Dog? And I'm like, I feel so good. Oh yes, I do. You know, so it's just like, yeah, man, like whatever they needed. Oh, what a rush. You know, just like I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99.9% sure that I voiced Luna Vachon in the game as well. So it's just like
wow.
But how'd you but Pat, how'd you come up with these, again, 70 to 90 voices, man, and your range of, you know, of course you're acting, you know what I mean? Like how did you, you know, in your head had to differentiate between all those voices?
The Mega Cat people were amazing. So like in the beginning it's just like they're just showing me pixel art. And they're like, voice this character. So in the beginning of the game, when you're playing with Brink Logan and you're fighting the Honest Bucks, and it's like, yeah, ooh, ah, like the Haig brothers,
right?
I just looked at them and I'm just like, ooh, ah, yeah, ooh, and then the game comes out and it's like, holy shit, they used it. Like that's what they thought those guys sounded like. And then like I said, I looked at Toy Box Jimmy and I'm just like, he's like a little bootleg like gang boss. He's like a little, like, I'm a little Robert De Niro over here. I'm Toy Box Jimmy. Oh, how you doing? Boo boo boo. Beep it about it.
I like how your mannerisms, your physical mannerisms change every time you use a different voice. That's like true. That's a sign of genius right there. You know, he does a little shoulder shrug, and it's cool too because, like, you know, like everybody knows how Macho Man sounds, and Hawk and Animal and Ric Flair and these guys. But so
Sure.
to do those voices, that's like one subset of voice talent work. Whereas opposed to like just having somebody send you a picture of a character and going, "Hey, this is Toy Box Jimmy, come up with a voice." To be able
Yeah,
to do that is a whole other thing. That's a whole other side of your brain that comes up with that creatively.
absolutely.
How do you navigate the two?
I just do it, it's just like, but it's like the grunts. It's like I would have to like do like a little line for those guys, and then do like grunts, So it's like Brink Logan, they were like, oh, and I'm just like, oh, he's a hitman, so it's like Roger, Roger, like
Mhm.
stuff like, I never miss, like it's just different, just trying to do different stuff. And the cool thing was, I spent so much time with the Mega Cat guys. Like we went to Tennessee for Ric Flair's last match. We went to two PAX East. We went to PAX West. We went to Magfest, and it just like, I mean, 3, 4 guys in a hotel room talking wrestling and eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, and sharing an Uber and all talking to our wife and kids at the same time. And it's just like, um, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I've never drank,
Mhm.
never smoked. So Zach, the lead writer on the game, Zach Manko, awesome guy. He's married, he's got a bunch of kids. He's like a family man like me.
Right.
So there was a bunch of nights where it would be like everyone would go out, and a couple of times it was me and him, and I would just be like, do you want him to sound like this? Like, what's my motivation for this guy? And like,
Right.
I'm not sure if you could see, but like, let me go get him. Hold on one
Yeah, do
second.
it.
So this guy right here.
We have visual aids.
Yeah.
That back wall looks awesome, though, man. Seriously.
So this is the Luchador. So if you've played the game,
Nice.
you know who this guy is.
Mhm.
And he explained to me that this guy was like very much like about family and represent. Yeah, there you go. Nice, nice. Representative. I love this guy so much.
Yeah.
Of
That's awesome.
of like Mexican wrestling culture and how important family is and things
Right.
like that. So he's like, he does everything for like his niños and stuff like that. So I was just like, I needed to capture like a voice. So it just, for some reason, I went to Puss in Boots. Like, so it's like, I do everything for my niños, like, Puss in Boots, So just like, I started recording like as many lines like that, and then if you play the game, that's the voice,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's just like so many conversations back and forth with Zach, about all of these characters and what motivates them and things like that. And you're right, it is a bunch of different, you got to use a bunch of different parts of your brain. And the thing is like, um I did a lot of writing on the Padre and the Padre One Shell Straight to Hell. Those were like my first two big like voiceover opportunities, and I was reading like paragraphs of stuff, you know. This was more like a sentence here, a sentence there, grunts, and then like catchphrases, but like for a lot of different characters and bringing a lot of different characters to life. So it was like it was a lot more challenging,
Mhm.
I think, than the Padre. I enjoy reading lines, I do, but like this was more fun because this was just like, this is what this character looks like. And then imagine looking at a picture.
Wait.
I think we lost
I
him.
think no. He
Am I
been
frozen?
KO'd.
Am I
Okay.
back?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
there
back
we go.
now. There you
You're
go.
back.
You're back now. Okay.
Okay. But it was like, just imagine looking at something like this for like, an hour, and then them saying to you like, bring this to life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge, so I definitely, like, I looked forward to the challenge. And then it's funny because I had a conversation with Jeff Jarrett like at PAX East like 2 years ago, and he was just like, do an impression of me like right now, like just do it. And I'm like,
Wow.
I can't,
Right.
I'm like, I could probably do your laugh,
Mhm.
how, but I'm like, I'm not an impressionist, I'm like, I can do like some ventriloquism and stuff like that, like I can do lots of cool stuff, but
Right.
like, I can't copy every single person's voice that I hear. I was like, but I'm like, that's not what this game is about. Like, yeah, like if I had to like practice saying slap nuts 5,000 times, I could probably get it to the point where I could sound enough like him. That's what it was about. Like Muchacho Man, Brink Logan, those were the guys that really needed to have like their own unique, sound and flavor and stuff like that. So, yeah, like I said, the real hardcore RPG people will get it. They'll get the voiceover stuff. So it's like when I read a review and people are like, oh, there's not enough voiceover, I'm like, there's not supposed to be. So
They're audio cues. They're not
Yeah.
text reads. They're not subtitled, lines of dialogue where you're reading along
Mhm.
with what is being said. And honestly, like that's a whole thing where it takes a little bit of getting used to sometimes with other games. Like a lot of Switch games for some reason go that route. Like a
Mhm.
lot of Nintendo games, they'll have alternating audio dialogue with like text, that visualizes up on screen. But it is, it takes you a couple seconds to acclimate. You're like, oh, I get it. You're like, he's not saying what he's saying. He's just
Yeah.
saying it's an audio cue to pay attention. But with regard to the lines that you say in the game, did you have any kind of creative input with regard to any of the actual lines that are spoken? Like, did you come up
A
with your own
ton.
lines periodically?
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
mean, like I said,
Okay.
the Heige brothers, like the
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
just like
It's
make the
it's
character
definitely
come
the
alive.
it's definitely the Hans and Franz kind of thing.
Yeah,
SNL. It's
absolutely.
really cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and then like Principal Robbie, like pretty much like all the characters that I voiced, like they gave me things to say and then they were like go to town, like do other things. So
Mhm.
it's just like Zach Manco is such a talented writer. James at Megacat, all these guys, they're all super, super talented. And they would give me a ton of things to say, and then I would always like find a way of like throwing other stuff in there. And luckily a lot of that like little stuff got in. So it's just like it's definitely like a nice balance. Like I said, it's just I like to thank people that like do me right,
Yeah.
like and I found myself thanking James from Megacat several times, and his answer is always same ship,
Mhm.
like we're on the same ship, and that's the way when you sit down and you have to do voiceover on a character, and then you finally find the sound that you want, and then you see that there's like 10 really good lines. um Pardon my French, but a shitty voice actor
Right,
will
right.
just be like, I'm just gonna read those 10 lines and then be done. With me, I'll be like, I'm gonna read those 10 lines and then like, what else can I ad lib? What can I and like that's the thing too. I've been lucky. I've interviewed like Dana Snyder from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I've interviewed some like really talented voice actors. And they'll always tell you like if they give you the mic, you got to do what you got to do with it.
Mhm.
Like you got to add. So I did it with the Padre. I did it with this. So yeah, they gave me a lot of opportunities to kind of like flex my muscles.
It's
What I
funny
like
because
oh yeah.
I had one of the last interviews with Charles Martinet
Mhm.
before he announced his retirement, which is something that's really crazy. I didn't see it coming, but it was literally just a couple of weeks ago we were at a live event and packed house and talking to Charles Martinet. And one of the stories he always tells is when he auditioned for the voice of Mario, uh, he went on so long with his audition and started to say just names of different pastas and things like anything in an Italian voice,
Yeah.
any Italian word that came around. He's like Ferrari, rigatoni, blah, blah, blah. And eventually they literally had to tell him multiple times, like, stop, shut up, stop, we got enough, we're good. Like you're done. The audition is done. So he literally they had to like hook him off stage, as it were, because he was just like, listen, if I'm gonna shoot my shot, this is going to be what it is, and
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd rather give
yeah,
them more than less. And that's what brought it home for him, and that's what made him, really noticed by Nintendo. Is like, hey man, this guy's going to give 1,000%. So yeah, it really mirrors what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Facts. That's true. And on the same note too, Pat, like a lot of us, especially as far as content creators, we want to thank you as well too, because in a sense, I'll give you an example, man. Like with WrestleQuest, man, like how you doing all these voices and the way these characters start off with their. I mean, of course, it's all text dialogue for sure, but the way you start off with the characters' voices, and it makes a lot of us that play the game, that play it on stream, we like to kind of like do and kind of like act along with you. And so it's like,
sure.
okay, Pat did this way, so I'm going to try to mimic that same voice. And we, of course, a lot of us can't. A lot of us don't have the talent like you have. But it makes the game come to life, man, when you have that free range. You know what I'm saying? That range of motion with a lot of those
Absolutely.
characters. And for all of us, it's like, okay, I got to sound like this guy. All right, let me sound like this guy for the audience as well too. It's amazing, man. Like seriously, like it's the way you did all these characters, phenomenal, man. So for sure. For sure. Now, let me ask you this as well, too, the side question. Now, Mega Cat Studio, this is the first time a lot of us, we pay attention to a lot of these studios that's, happening in the video game industry. Is this the first title that Mega Cat Studios dropped, or?
No. So oh my god. So I know of the Mega Cat guys for like nearly a decade because I've been a video game journalist for close to 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at NBC at the time, and I had gotten a press release, and it was basically like this Pittsburgh-based retro developer that
Okay.
they're making new games for the Sega Genesis, the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo and stuff. And I had reached out to James and I'm like, I run a website called reviewfix.com. I write for NBC. I was the lead. I was the #1 video game writer for Examiner for quite some time too.
Right.
And I was just like, I want to cover you guys. You guys are doing really crazy stuff. And James and I started talking, and he would send me. I mean, they did Creepy Brawlers. I think it's on Switch now.
Okay.
But like on the NES, it's so much fun because it's basically like a Halloween themed Punch Out.
You said creepy brawlers or creepy?
Creepy Brawlers, yeah.
Okay,
You know,
alright,
and
yeah.
and then they eventually did Coffee Crisis on the Sega Genesis that came out on the Switch as well, and they've got a whole bunch of games. But the thing was, I interviewed James and Zach, and then I just kept in contact with them.
Yeah.
And then I definitely I wanted to get an indie game or two in like the minds behind adventure games, so I reached out to them. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if you guys got into like one of my books? And they're like, yeah, oh my god. Well, I'm like, let's talk about Coffee Crisis. So we did that, and then like right around the time I'm writing the minds behind adventure games, I got the dialogue editing job and then the VO job for the Padre.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Mega Cat people reached out to me and like, wait, you do VO too? I'm like, yes, I do. And I had done some trailers for them. And then what ended up happening was I was writing a play that had a producer, was all set to go, and then COVID happened, and all that got pulled out. So then I wanted to turn it into a comic book, which I did. It's called The Job now. But what happened was I had spent like 2 weeks turning that play into like a fully like laid out, level designed, ready to go video game, you know? And I sent it to James and I was like, listen, I'm sure you get these all the time. And I don't want to be that person that just sends you like level design. I was like, but I've done dialogue editing, I've done VO, I've written books on video games. Let me know what you think of this when you get the time. I know you're swamped and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I would love to do this. I was like, imagine like a wrestling game that's like half Miami Hotline, like robbing banks. And then depending on how your health is, then you have to go in and wrestle like NES pro wrestling style. Like imagine if the game just jumped from that to that. And he's like, oh, that sounds really cool. So then they ended up bringing me in and I did some writing for them for a summer on a game. Can't tell you what game it is. But did some writing for them. And then that worked out great. I worked with the team. They were great. And then they sprung WrestleQuest on me, and that was like 3 years ago. So the thing is, like, I've been like working alongside them in one way or another for like 4.5 years, but like I know of them for like 10. So a lot of people are like, what the hell is Mega Cat? I'm like, oh my god, they're like the best game developer that you don't know about yet.
Mega Cat's been around for a while. I don't know how many of you guys have an Evercade, but they have they have Evercade collections of their previous games.
Okay.
And like they're one of those indie studios. I don't think they've ever put out a bad game. Every game I've played that they've had, I haven't played all their games. The ones I have played have always been top notch. They're very unique. They blend genres very well. And that's just like with WrestleQuest. When you get a case of game where it like wants to flagrantly borrow two very disparate genres of gaming and gets them to merge very well. So not only, sometimes you risk it all for something like that. Sometimes you blend two genres and then the game sucks. It doesn't do either thing well. But like with this game in particular, with WrestleQuest, yes, it's a good wrestling game. Like it does what a wrestling game should do, all the things. The mechanics are not typically what you see in a wrestling game, but the spirit is there. But if you reskin that game as anything else but a wrestling game, you'd still have a solid RPG. And that's the litmus test to see if you did it right. Like, can this game be slightly different, still be good? In either way, if you shifted it more towards wrestling, would it be good? If you shifted it more towards RPG, would it be good?
You could make it a basketball RPG. That'd been solid, yo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. It really, hey, it begs the question. But see, like, what's really cool is like the more you start to play it. See, I went into it thinking, all right, I know I'm gonna like this, but it's probably gonna be a little gimmicky, which is okay. I don't mind a gimmicky game. Some games can survive on gimmick. And I was like, I would be totally fine with that. I don't mean that as a criticism. But when you play WrestleQuest, you start to realize very soon, like really early in the game, maybe only like an hour, maybe an hour and a half in, you're like, hey, this is actually like deep. Like there's like a lot of customization in there, like your your entrance music and the type of character you want to be,
Mhm.
and the type of like his relationship with other wrestlers in the game, and
Yep.
your it's really
Side
cool.
quests,
You're
your
like, whoa.
items, your gear,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
man. Yep.
legit RPG. So
Yeah.
in my
Oh,
mind, I'm
yeah.
thinking, my God, this like takes two things that people typically don't associate with each other. Like most people like RPGs are not sports fans. I'm saying
Yeah.
most. I'm not trying to stereotype,
Mhm.
but most people like sports games are not really RPG fans.
Right, right.
It takes both things on very different sides of the spectrum and merges them really well as one thing. It's really really cool to play.
And we're anticipating WrestleQuest to probably be in the running for either breakout indie or indie game of the year for this year. So listen, I'm looking forward to it. This has to be part of the list.
Has anyone platinumed
Thank
it
you.
yet? Has anyone platinumed that game yet? I'm grinding. I'm trying.
I mean, you would probably say it for sure. Yeah, for
No,
real.
but I think I popped the first trophy in that game in North America.
Yeah, you sent me the That's
So I
cool.
took a screenshot. I was the first one to get one of the trophies. So yeah,
Yeah, you
I'm trying.
Yeah, you eventually. Let me ask you one last question, Pat. Man, is there any other projects that you're hopefully, I don't know if you can tell us that you're involved with in the future as far as the video game industry goes, or
So I'm doing VO on 5 games right now that I can't tell you about.
man, come on, Pat, please let me stop.
Yeah.
I got you.
So
So
but,
Grand,
like,
Grand Theft Auto 6,
I wish.
Metroid Fusion 4. No, I'm kidding.
But no,
Actually,
there,
go
there
Metal Gear probably.
I swear to God.
some really cool stuff coming up right through the pipeline for a couple of different publishers. Really cool stuff. I've got 6 comic books coming out this fall from Legacy. The second issue of The Job is coming out. It looks freaking awesome. Like, Smoke, you would love this comic. It's about a pro wrestling jobber that loses every match, but he's got a hot valet that happens to be his wife, and they look like $1 million, and everyone's like, how? Like, you lose every match, you're getting paid like $20 a match, but you guys look amazing. How do you like?
That was my early. You're talking about the early part of my career. Actually, I said,
They've got like a great car, and everyone's like, how do you guys afford this? And the answer is simple: they rob banks.
oh, nice.
Oh, dude.
And so it's just like, and they're basically robbing banks to pay for their pro wrestling addiction. And it's like Dog Day Afternoon, Mickey Rourke's the wrestler, and like Mike and Molly, like all mixed into one. It's a lot of fun. So the next issue of that is coming out in a couple of weeks. Then we have another. I don't want to be the wrestling comic book guy, but like for some reason, like we've just had 2 really good scripts that land on my doorstep. So this former NBC guy, really cool guy, Gordon Holmes, he sends me this script, and it's basically about this heel pro wrestler that's having like this like super important match during his career. So it's like the whole issue is like this match, and then like every like other page it skips back to what's happening in his personal life. And oh my God, by the time I got to like page 7 or 8 and I saw like what this guy was going through outside the ring, like I was like, I could feel it in my stomach, like I wanted to cry. Like, I'm like, this guy's getting like stuff thrown at him and stuff, and people don't like him and this and that, and it's just like the stuff that this guy was going through in his personal life was just so hard. And by the time I got to the end of the book, I was literally teary, and I went to Gordon. I'm like, yeah, we have to figure out a way to like get this done. So the name of the book is called The Bad Guy, and it's just so much fun. That's gonna be out in a couple of months too. So then Halloween we have 4 horror themed comics coming out. Like, one is called Door Slash, and it's about I mean, think about it, like Civic. You ever get like Grubhub before? You ever have like the delivery?
I was wondering if that was that.
Probably never again though.
I was wondering if that was that. Yeah.
But it's like
DoorDash.
you don't know who this guy or girl is. You don't know, and it's always funny to me like we live in such like we live in this culture where it's just like, yeah, just some stranger's gonna come and he's gonna go to the restaurant for me, handle my food for me, then come
on, Pat.
to
Now
my house
you gave you phobia now,
it.
man.
So it's like it's super fun the way we handled all of that. So I'm super excited for the comics that are coming out. I mean, this is the thing too. This year, 2023, I had 2 new Minds Behind the Games books come out. So I had the Minds Behind PlayStation and the Minds Behind PlayStation 2 games come out. So like we're talking February and April. So those are like 2 of the best books that I've done so far. So like I'm still kind of like letting those simmer a little bit. Like so many people like, oh, when's the next Minds Behind the Games book? And it's like I released 7 books in 4.5 years. It's like I gotta like let the every day somebody goes to me, I love the first book. Is there another one? And I'm just like, there's 6 more.
Wow.
You know, so it's just like I kind of like that's why, you know, people will come up to me at a convention and they'll be like, why are you selling the comics for? And I'm just like, because I love the comics and I love my video game books too, but it's just like I'm trying to like let the market simmer a little bit because I kind of cornered the market a little bit on it, and it's like I've released so much stuff so quickly. Like COVID, so many people I knew were breaking down physically and emotionally during COVID, and my wife and I had a kid, and I was just like locking myself in my man cave writing for 8 or 9 hours a day and doing these interviews with all these game developers. So to answer your question, more comics, more games, thinking of another book. I'm editing fiction. I just edited someone's fiction novel, the Illusion of the Morning Sun. If you Google that on Amazon, I edited this guy's book. It's a really cool fiction novel, very James Patterson-y. So it's like I'm editing fiction. I'm writing Old School Gamer. I write 2 or 3 articles for the magazine, an issue. I write like 5 articles a month for the website. So I'm super busy, super excited for the future. Can't stop, won't stop.
Speaking of busy, I got a
Rockefeller
question for
Records,
you.
let's go. Head up.
Personal question. So I run 5 out of 7 days a week. I average about 5 miles per day. I do about 1/3 the steps that you get. What?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like, what in the hell are you doing to get like 30,000 steps on an average day? Like, what are you doing?
So I wake up around 4:30 in the morning, and then it takes about 2 hours to walk to work. So I walk to work and home from work. So now I just moved. To Staten Island, which is probably like it's over a bridge, and there's like it's like another 25 minutes to my commute. So what I'm gonna end up doing is just taking the bus over the bridge, and then I'm gonna walk 3 hours each way. So I'm probably gonna be getting to like 40,000 steps, but I'm only gonna do it like 3 times a week instead of 4 or 5. You know, like I don't want to die. But I have Bully Ray type calves. Like I have like my legs are like totally like my strong point. I wish my chest looked like my legs. But I love to walk. I listen to podcasts. I do a lot of business calls while I'm walking. You know, I hate to be that person that like comes home from work and is still working and not spending time with his kids and his wife. So I try and get as much done as possible. And the thing is, like, if I drive into work, it'll probably take me like a half an hour. And if I take mass transit, it'll take me like an hour and 15 minutes. But if I walk, it'll be like 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I just like, I enjoy that time to myself. So, like I said, listen to podcasts. I have a team of like 12 writers and artists from like all over the world, and they're all in different time zones and stuff. So like the guy that just did a book for me called The Messenger, it's really cool. Like I hope you guys check it out. But he lives in China. You know, so it's like when I wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, like over there. So when I'm walking to work, I'm sure I'm scaring the shit out of people because I'm the 6'4" guy walking with a thing of Dunkin' Donuts, and like they can't see the Bluetooth, and I'm talking to this guy about comic books. But like I try and make like if you guys do a Google search, Max Perkins, he's probably like one of the greatest literary editors of all time. I mean, he edited Hemingway, Thomas Wolfe, F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've read his book, and I've read so much about him. Him and Teddy Roosevelt are like 2 of like my like huge like mentors and proteges and stuff like that. And this guy edited F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway to the point where like Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald were like scared to submit to him because they cared about what he said so much. So, but the thing is, he made time for all of those people. You know, so my whole thing is like I run a publishing company, I write for a magazine, I try and make as much time for people as possible. I mean, Civic, we've had conversations before. You know, it's like I just try and make time for people. If people reach out to me and they ask me a question, I just try and make myself available.
And for what it's worth, you've been very helpful to me personally, and I wanted to thank you for that because there have been times,
no problem.
You know, I've had things I've written, and you certainly are number one go-to when I'm looking for anything that I think like, listen, it needs to be fact-checked or proofread. You know, I'm pretty good. I mean, I do write as a profession. It is what I do, but it's always good to have. You have to have a second or third set of eyes on every single thing you do. Nobody's perfect. Inevitably, something needs tweaking. So you're a great source for me, and I know you're busy, and I just always appreciate the time that you that you give to us, to me specifically, also to our show,
Sure.
really, really means a lot, man.
Mhm.
It definitely does. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
I mean, at the end of the day, I enjoy my interactions with you guys. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's like,
Thank you. And same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had
Absolutely.
so many, especially like the last like 2 weeks with the game coming out, like just people trying to like, monopolize your time, or people like taking advantage of your time. And that's like, to give people listening like any advice, like that's the thing. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. It's like just managing your time properly,
Facts.
and
Yes. Absolutely.
like I never feel like my time is being wasted with you guys. If I felt like, and that's the thing
Oh,
too, it's
thank you.
hard when you start doing this for a long time. Like there's shows that like I don't do anymore because I feel like when I go on there, it's just like what's the point?
Right.
Like I don't enjoy myself. They like their reach. They don't even try and get the show out there. Like you guys work really hard, so
Oh,
like that's the
thank you.
thing.
And we
Iron sharpens iron.
Hey,
So,
Pat, we appreciate. We're not the other show like we was gonna talk about, but anyway. But Pat, listen, we could talk on and on, my guy, man. I swear to God, dude, we could go hours. But real quick, man, just let everybody know where to follow you at. Like seriously.
So I am on Instagram and Facebook are like my two social medias of choice. Instagram is more like family and like
Yes.
me pondering and stuff like that. I still friend pretty much everybody. I have a public account, so it's just Patrick Hickey Jr. It's just my name, and then Instagram is my name as well, Patrick Hickey Jr. If you're interested in the comics, it's Legacy_Comics, COMIX. If you're interested in the Minds Behind the Games books, it's the Minds Behind the Games on Instagram. There's also a Facebook page that's updated every day. All of my stuff is updated every single day. Review Fix is updated every single day with wrestling and music and video games and comic books. Like all of my social media platforms, all of my websites, everything that I'm a part of is updated every day. So yeah.
And
Or you
that's-
can just Google me.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Google
my
me.
answer too. I love that. Listen, that's the man behind WrestleQuest, ladies and gentlemen. Pat, thank you so much, man, for jumping in the show. Like seriously, you are amazing. It's good to see you always, man. Seriously. And,
Absolutely,
we
man.
hope
Pleasure to see
Hey, are
you.
we
too.
gonna see at any local conventions here anytime soon? You gonna be coming down our way, or?
I mean, eventually at some point, like I'm doing a couple of cons like in Brooklyn and Staten Island in September and in October. I just started talking to the New York Public Library about doing talks for the kids about video game history and stuff like that in New York,
Nice.
in the
That's
New York
good.
Public Library system. So that's like those are the things that I want to do. But yeah, man, like I totally want to get like I want to get out there a little bit more. ZoloCon last year was a blast. I'm not doing it this year.
Right.
But
I don't think they're doing it this year. I think that was a one-off. That ZoloCon Game On. I think that's the
Mhm.
they did the video game thing, and I don't know that they got the response they wanted. So I think they're dialing it back. I think they're just going to do the toy fair now.
Correct. Mhm.
Mhm.
It's unfortunate because I really liked that one too. I thought it was a
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
great one.
But yeah, so but I'm like I said, I'm always available like online, and that's the cool thing. Like I try and do as many podcasts as possible to try and reach out. It's like if someone messages me on Facebook and they want to know stuff, I'll tell them.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not going to give them like Richard Nixon secrets and stuff like that, but like I get messages all the time from people like, how do I break into voice acting? And I tell them like everyone's path is different. Like, oh, how do I write a book on video games? I'll be like, listen, well, these are the steps that you have to take. Everyone is different, blah, 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 blah. So it's just like, if you need help, if you need inspiration, if you need somebody to like kind of guide you, I'd be more than happy to just know that like my time for people that I've just met isn't going to be like the same for like you guys or something like that,
Facts. Listen, man, and again, we appreciate you just for giving your time as well, too, man, to us. So we definitely cherish it. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the man behind WrestleQuest. Please go and pick that game up right now. It is available. We all playing it, man. We love it, man. Seriously, pick that game up. Probably going to be the best indie game of this year for sure. I'll put that down vote myself, man. Seriously, we'll pick up WrestleQuest.
Available on PlayStation, Switch, Xbox,
PC.
PC. Anything else? Am I missing any?
Netflix.
That's where
Netflix.
games.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which this is weird, but anyway, Netflix. Yeah, Netflix, get it. Get on Netflix as well too.
That's legit.
Yeah, exactly. So WrestleQuest, pick it up. Pat, much love, man. Listen, we're gonna have you back again, like seriously, man, in the near future
Absolutely.
for sure. So that's friend of the show, Patrick Hickey Jr. To all of us, man, listen, you know what to do, man. This is going to be the end of our show. And of course, before we go, make sure that you go ahead and follow us on every social media, PTC Gaming Show on every social media as well. Too. You can hit us up on an email at ptcgamingshow@gmail.com with your gaming questions for us to answer on the show as well, too. And then also hit us up on our fan page as PTC Nation on Facebook, where everybody comes together and Game On, where we want to share your gaming gamer tag, anything you want, man. Gaming polls, memes, anything you can think of in the top of your gaming mind. PTC Nation is just for you, for all of us, so we can pass the controller together. Pat, again, much love. I love you so much, man. You're amazing to talk to. You're amazing to hang out with, man, for real. So hopefully I'll see you next time. Listen, it's a me. I don't want to end the show, but we got to end the show though, seriously. But so listen, you got to check out Pat, check out WrestleQuest, and that is it for all of us, ladies and gentlemen. For Smoke, for Civic Minded, for Patrick Hickey Jr., I am McNux. This has been Pass the Controller, and as always, people, get good.
Peace and hair grease, y'all. Peace and hair grease. Hey guys, I gotta shut it down early because I gotta get this. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Pat, great seeing you as always, man.
Pleasure, man.
All right, we hope you see you soon. Get some good come out the All right, cool. All right, guys, take it easy. I'll talk to y'all.
Good night.
All right, later.